collection. There is, however, no bylaw in terms of how long you can leave trash out after the day of collection. A number of instances this year of trash being left out, for example, recyclables, the leaf bags, for example, a number of different complaints from neighbors about how long they were left out. But best to speak on this through you, Mr. Moderator. With your permission, please, I'd like to call on our Director of Public Works, Mr. Rademacher, to further explain the new trash contract and this warrant article related to this.
Okay. Mr. Rademacher. Thank you, Mr. Greeley.
Thank you. Michael Rademacher, Director of Public Works. It is true that we now do not have a bylaw that allows us enforcement for having trash removed from the curb if it's not collected, and the best example there recently was the leaf bags left after our last yard waste collection. But the trash contract we're about to enter into beginning July 1st is going to have some components which also will have an impact that would require or be beneficial to have this same bylaw change. There are three components that are most closely related to the request to have this change to the bylaw, and that would be enforcement of the town's mandatory recycling, weekly recycling pickup, and waste limits that will be part of the new trash contract. Recycling enforcement is something that the town has wanted to do for some time, but did not have staff to do so. State law requires that many items are banned from the waste stream. These are recyclable materials, construction debris, automobile tires, and the such. And if our trash vendor brings waste to the incinerator or the receiving facility, and it is determined that there's too many of these materials in the waste stream, that trash can be rejected, turned away from the facility. That vendor is now in a position where they have no place to bring this waste. Once they learn that lesson, they then would be more diligent in looking at waste on the curb for pickup, and then they have the ability to reject waste on their own if it is determined that there is an excess amount of waistband items within the trash stream. So having a recycling enforcement gets us more proactive in this sense, where we don't get to the point where we're being forced into trying to deal with the situation, but facing it head on. And this new trash contract that we're about to enter into, the vendor has offered to become our enforcement officer. And the current proposal for enforcement would be to leave trash on the curb if recycling efforts aren't seen to be occurring at the household. Now, in order to make this a more easy transition for folks for this mandatory recycling, we wanted to up recycling to weekly collection. And when we put out our RFP to get bids for the waste contract, we asked pricing to come back both for the status quo and with the weekly recycling option. And prices we got ranged from $250,000 to upwards of $800,000 additional to have weekly recycling. One vendor came with the option that if we were to impose waste limits, a limit on the amount of solid waste people could place on the curb, they could lower their proposal to us and bring actually the proposed costs in line or less than the cost we currently pay to not have weekly recycling. Now, the thought process behind that is if the vendor knows how much waste they might pick up in a given week, if they know if it's limited to a certain amount, they can then program their time and their facility to allow for additional recycling truck to be on the street. They know what their limit is going to be on waste pickup, and then they know they have the additional workforce to pick up our recycling on a weekly basis. So the enforcement for that waste limit would also be that trash above that limit would also be left on the curb. So what we didn't want was a situation where waste was left on a curb either in the case of mandatory recycling or waste ban limits, and not have the ability to enforce that waste to be brought back off the curb so that it doesn't become a public nuisance. We want it to be off the curb, either brought back out the following week or disposed of properly with other means. The state has offered us to, the state is now offering grants for recycle enforcers, but they are requiring that monetary fines be placed for people who violate mandatory recycling. And we felt that this policy of leaving waste would be a little bit more sensitive to the residents of Arlington. We, excuse me, we also are proposing to phase this new program in over the course of 1 or 2 months and educate folks on violations as they occur. So July 1st, we're not going to just start to enforce these violations, but instead leave stickers or some kind of notification saying you're in violation of the town's new bylaw and the town's new trash policies. And in the coming weeks, we would not be collecting this trash. I guess that's pretty much the explanation of why we're looking for this, this change to the bylaw.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Phelps?
Judith Phelps, Precinct 16. I have a problem with this in the sense that in the past, there have been times when people have put out rubbish that was not picked up. There was like a whole street that maybe was missed by the rubbish collectors. People have been told in town that if your trash isn't picked up, that they were able to call either the DPW or the trash collector themselves. They had a number that they could call, and that they would then pick it up the next day. Is this policy no longer going to be available for town people?
Mr. Rademacher?
Mike Rademacher, Director of Public Works. If trash is missed on a street due to either the fault of the town or the vendor, we would not hold this new violation in place for that location. We would send a truck back out and collect the trash.
So then, if the people haven't removed the trash by 9 o'clock, are they then in violation?
No, we would not hold those locations in violation.
So why isn't it made that if you leave a notice of violation that it's banned materials, then it has to be moved by 9 o'clock? If there's no removal, no notice made, then the people can leave it out there and call to have it removed the next day.
I'm not sure I understand.
In other words, if I put my rubbish out and it wasn't picked up because it was banned material, I would expect that by 9 o'clock I'd have to bring it back in, go through it, sort it out, and leave only stuff that wasn't banned the following week. However, if they miss mine, I don't want to have to pull it in at 9 o'clock, call the next morning, and then have to, again, take it back to the street the next day for them to come and pick it up.
You wouldn't have to. I apologize if I wasn't clear. If because of the fault of the town or the vendor we missed a street or a section of town, we would not require the trash to be pulled in and then put back out. We would simply send a trash truck out to collect that trash the following day.
Then this bylaw would make that person in violation of the bylaw.
The bylaw is written that your trash has to be pulled in the day that you're appointed for collection. If we had to delay that day once because of the fault of the town or the vendor, the following day would essentially become the de facto day that would be the collection day.
Scott Smith?
Scott Smith, Precinct 5. I'm going to offer a simple amendment. If Mr. Good, throw that Word file I sent on the screen. Basically, it addresses Ms. Phelps' concerns. had the same concern thinking back to January a year ago when, for understandably, trash pickup was sometimes delayed because trucks couldn't get down the street due to snow. Had some back and forth with Mr. Rademacher, and I was convinced it was not the intent. But I will offer, Scott Smith, STM Article 10, some doc file. Yeah, scroll up, please. Yes, thank you. Okay, but it sounds like this amendment might be necessary and might make people more comfortable, so I offer it. Basically, it adds the words, unless it can be reasonably expected that pickup will occur on the following day, then any uncollected rubbish must be removed by 9 p.m. This is designed to cover the case where the pickup doesn't happen that day for whatever reason. You call them up and they say, leave it out, we'll get to it tomorrow. It's designed just to cover that case. And I support both the original motion and my amendment. Thank you.
Okay, the motion's been seconded. Mr. Streifeld?
Mark Streitfeld, Precinct 20. I am concerned about this article, and I think I'm probably going to be voting against it. I understand the intent of it. I think the intent of it is very good, but the way it is done, what I know about myself is I'm very often not home by 9 o'clock on the day that trash is due to be picked up. And I worry about any type of town bylaw which will routinely put people, put people in the state where they're violating the bylaw. I don't know what the correct solution is, but this is not what I will be voting for. Now, listening to the remarks from the Director of Public Works, I got the impression there were, he mentioned that there are conditions under which trash will not be collected if there's too much trash or it doesn't look like there's enough recycling. Is that what I understood was said?
I think what he said is if you're not recycling, they're not going to pick it up. If there's no recycling bins in front of your house and it's recycling day, your trash is staying on the curb. Is that basically it, Mr. Rademacher? Yeah. That's what he told us. Mr. Rademacher, clarify if I got it wrong.
Mike Rademacher, Public Works Director. That is correct. The policy we are looking at is a mandatory recycling enforcement. So with the weekly recycling, there should be evidence of recycling on a weekly basis with the trash. And if there isn't, then we would leave the trash at the curb.
Is it conceivable that somebody wouldn't have any recyclables for some reason during a given period?
We did consider that, and not to say there isn't that situation, and we could, if there is a hardship or if there's a case-by-case we need to look at, but we had some difficulty thinking of an instance where there would not be any recycling materials created in a one-week period, junk mail, milk cartons, so forth.
I see.
Okay. Mr. Chappett? You want to be on the list? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Roland Chappett, Precinct 12. There's a part of this project that confuses me a little bit, and let me give you a story and to back up why. I'll support the bylaw, but I need some clarity, and that has to do with leaf pickup. Now, if I understand it correctly right now, every week leaves are picked up. Is that correct?
Mike Rademacher, Director of Public Works. Currently, during the season where yard waste is picked up, it is picked up every other week to concur with recycling pickup. Under this new contract, we actually will have weekly yard waste pickup during that season.
So leaf pickup right now is the same week as recycle pickup?
Correct, during the season, yes.
Okay, I guess I'm wrong. A quick story. A couple of weeks ago, the Prince Robbins Farm sponsored a cleanup up on the farm. We did a great job, and there were about 25 people up there. We got a lot done. In one corner back of my house, they collected leaves and put them in leaf bags, which we supplied. And I told Mike, the guys came Monday morning, and they didn't pick them up. I thought they might not have seen them because there was a lot of other brush and so forth, which they did get. And so I said, I'll just put them out in the front of my house, and when the truck comes by, they'll get them. Turned out there was a dozen bags, not 6. So that was 6 trips in my wheelbarrow to go from the back of the park up to the street. Okay, no problem, except that they're still there. Now, I thought, and I'm wrong about this, that they would be picking up leaves every single week. And so when I put them out on Thursday morning, they should have been gone that afternoon. I'm wrong. What you're saying to me now is if this passes, that would have occurred. They would have picked them up every single week.
No. We're confusing what our future contract for
That's what I'm saying.
waste contractor is going to be and the simple bylaw amendment before us. The waste contractor in the future, which he's going to tell us about during the budgets, may pick up every week if that's the one he contracts with. What we're talking about is this bylaw amendment. If you don't bring your trash in, you're going to get a fine.
Put away at non-clear. I understand that.
But he's
I'm
hoping
not
we
going
get
out
that
there
new
and-
contract.
I'm not about to go out there and wheelbarrow another dozen leaf bags back to the back of my yard just because we didn't get them picked up. So my concern was, will I ever have to worry about this problem again?
If we get the new contract that picks up weekly, no. Correct? Correct.
Fine, then I'll support this.
Okay. It's 11:05. Okay. Do we have any notices of reconsideration? Mr. Tosti served notice of reconsideration of Article 41 and under the special 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All in favor of adjourning, please say yes. Yes. Opposed? No. We have to adjourn the annual? No, I think, yeah, all in favor of adjourning the annual town meeting, please say yes. Yes. Opposed? All right, we're going to finish with number 10 next week and then go back to the annual. Al Tosti served it. You want 41? Do you want it? All right, Mr. Harrington is serving reconsideration of 41 as well.